It's split.
Right.
So there's this about 10 boys. Kids like to call their leaders.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
First name was she and I picked the kids up and this girl who what was your favorite class? And it's fun because it's so like a person who plays it. They have a girl outside school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every day she would wearing like the fashion
clothes match the environment.
yeah. Where are you talking
Retired.
really smart.
Yeah. 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 Well, I remember with my kids, like, Jordan never played with a doll one time. She'd look at a Barbie doll and throw it aside, and BJ'd be yeah. Yeah.
Almost sorry. With their it's a service. I'm not necessarily.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah. Really good.
We'll check that your microphones are on.
What's up? Whenever you're ready, JJ.
Meetings of the Johnson County Board of Supervisors are open to the public and are generally live streamed. To join electronically, please visit bit.ly/JOCO meeting. Written comments may be submitted to sups@johnsoncountyiowa.gov. If you require accommodations to participate, please contact the board office at 319-356-6000 prior to the meeting. Public comment is at the discretion of the chairperson. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Due to public meeting laws, the board may only discuss or act on matters presented on this agenda. Welcome.
Good morning. We'll come to order. It's 9 a.m. Today is Wednesday, May 6, 2026. This is a general business work session of the Johnson County Board of Supervisors. Roll call, please.
Sullivan?
Here.
Fix-Maurice?
Present.
Green?
Present?
Remington?
Here.
Green Douglas?
Here.
All right. With all 5 supervisors present participating, we have quorum. Next, the chair would seek unanimous consent to approve the agenda as presented. See no objection. It is so ordered. Item B is business from the public. Public comment. Is there anyone with public comment this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, Board. My name is Solomon. I'm a PhD student at the University of Iowa studying educational policy, but my comments are entirely of my own volition. I just want to comment shortly on the research sponsored by the board, conducted by the Center for Social Science Innovation at the University of Iowa regarding the proposed sheriff's office and jail. I not necessarily opposed to an improved building, but I do have concerns about the process around this research study. I've read the final report, and in that document, the project was framed as community-engaged research, but I don't see any evidence that this is actually what occurred. Community-engaged research is a specific research approach where community members are partners through the whole research process, including in designing, say, the research questions, making decisions, and interpreting the findings. So that would mean community members involved in writing the survey, right, for instance, or co-facilitating the focus groups that occurred. But the pre-written survey and 3 focus groups as they were done is not a collaborative process. The research project's stated objective was to assist in developing a plan for the sheriff's office and jail. That's from the document. As far as I can tell, that assistance was primarily about gauging and influencing public opinion for a plan that's already been made. I would be very curious to learn otherwise, for instance, how this research will be used or has been used to affect that plan. Overall, I'm disappointed in the missed opportunity for engaging more with the community through that specific research project, especially for a study that cost tens of thousands of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment?
One moment. Okay, good morning. My name is Allison Bywater. I am a 5th-year doctoral candidate at the University of Iowa, where largely my research focuses on both ethics and policy. And I'm here on my own volition, speaking from my education, but here not representing the university. So for those that don't know, for the last couple of weeks, I have been reaching out to researchers at CSSI who were contracted to perform a study on the idea of a new jail, and the supervisors and the sheriff with concerns about how the study is being talked about with the public. Specifically, many elected officials have been publicly using the study to communicate with citizens that the supermajority, or even majority, of Johnson County residents support a new jail. I offered to sit down with you or the sheriff and really explain to you why the study cannot show this. However, only Supervisor Fixmer-O'Rice took me up on that offer, and I do think we did have a productive conversation. I've received silence from most of you, and from Supervisor Sullivan and Executive Director Shane, I received quite honestly demeaning emails referring to my very legitimate concerns as opinions or personal interests. That framing of my critiques as such is quite insulting to my training and education. I was also told maybe Monday, by both Supervisor Sullivan and Executive Director Shane that the county is satisfied with the report, intends to rely on the expertise it paid for, and does not expect further clarification. I'm going to be very blunt here. I could use a bunch of fancy words to explain to all of you why that is not what this study can show, but it doesn't take an expert to look at this study and discern that the study is skewed and is not able to support the majority of Johnson counties in favor of a new jail. That's not what this study can do. As someone trained in research, however, what I can do is take serious my ethical responsibility to raise concerns when findings are communicated in ways that mislead public understanding of publicly funded research. A part of that responsibility is to now come here in person out of my very busy schedule, where I serve many county residents for mental health care, and communicate directly to you. You need to stop communicating that the majority of Johnson County supports a new jail. When results like this are presented as evidence of broad public support, especially in the lead up to a ballot measure, quite frankly, it feels manipulative. And I'm really confused on why you would want to shut down discourse on questions and critiques of this study, especially if it's a study that you stand by. Because it feels hard, maybe it's hard to admit that you were wrong, but when it comes to a study that about $60,000 of our tax money went to, voters deserve clarity about what this study shows and does not show. I deserve clarity from the researchers about what this study shows and does not show. And we deserve leaders that care when community members raise concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment?
Good morning. I wanted to comment because I know that the old jail has major problems. It has overcrowding. It's deteriorating. There's problems with safety, and there's a lack of space with programs. I've heard that it's old and it's dirty. But in the last 2 annual inspections, the Department of Corrections did not find a single compliance issue. The inspector noted some deterioration of the building, but wrote, staff advised money has been allotted and plans have been made to address these problems. So why are we even here? 32 months ago, this county hired Shive Hattery. The bill so far is more than $700,000. Most of it is intended to be refunded from the bond that's being discussed today. That report identifies real problems with the jail. It prices an improved jail housing component at $35 million, of about $48 million total for the entire jail. 18 days after the Shive Hattery contract was signed, Shive Hattery sat down with Sheriff Kunkel to discuss his wish list. That was their words. That list included a firearm simulator, drone storage, and an MRAP storage bay. The draft ballot language now adds even more: multiple courtrooms, prosecutor offices, and ancillary uses, whatever that may mean. Extensive justifications were required and given to spend that $35 million on improving the jail conditions for inmates. No such justifications exist for the $45 million that would be going to the sheriff. That portion includes a 12,000 square foot vehicle maintenance and storage facility. Use of the existing facilities, which you just approved to expand for $1.7 million, isn't even considered. It's just copy-pasted from the wish list into the plan. The $35 million for the jail might be defensible, but for the state inspector and the $3 million that are already approved to repair any issues that he found. So even after nearly 3 years of research and over $750,000 committed between Shive Hattery and CSSI, there is no final dollar amount and there is no stated need for most of this project. The draft ballot language reflects this. It shows X dollars for complementary governmental purposes and ancillary uses. In other words, give the sheriff his wish list, whatever the cost. I believe that this project is barely ready for discussion at this point, let alone deciding ballot language. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Could you say your name for the record? Just so I have it. Thank you.
Sure, my name is Hendrik Van Pelt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any additional public comment?
Supervisors, my name is Laura Burgess. I'm a lifelong resident of Johnson County. I was not planning to speak this morning. Hearing from these individuals about their concerns relating to the jail and the lack of seriousness that has gone into the conversation so far made me feel compelled to stand up and add my voice to theirs. The city of Iowa City, as I understand it, is the largest user of the Johnson County Jail. At the last criminal justice coordinating committee meeting, that committee voted to remove the representatives from Iowa City from that committee. There have not been conversations relating between the county of Johnson County and the city of Iowa City that I have been made aware of in my role as city councilor since the sheriff opted not to move forward with a joint facility proposal. I have been in touch individually with the majority of you relating to my concerns about the lack of transparency around this process, and I was frankly shocked and disappointed, although perhaps at this point I should not be, at the lack of clarity and information in the proposed ballot language that you all are going to be discussing today. There is not a location. There is not a dollar amount. There is no suggestion of the number of beds, which has been a huge matter of public concern. There is not any information about using any of the bond money towards affordable housing, which several of you have mentioned to me you want to do. I do not understand how this is ready for you all to consider today. The ballot language itself has typos. I would be so disappointed if bond counsel has approved the drafts that are in front of you that have been shared with me. This entire process feels very unserious, very, very limited in the amount of input, and frankly, just not at a level that I expect from leadership in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Good morning. My name is Jacob Walliser. I live and work in Coralville. I'm here to share some thoughts about the survey that was used by Johnson County to support the building of the $100 million new jail and some recent discussions about that survey. I understand survey results are being used as proof of public support for the project. Taxpayer money funded the study, yet when legitimate questions were raised about how the survey was designed and how the findings were being interpreted publicly, there's been little willingness to discuss. If the results are beyond reproach, then why avoid public discourse about it? Why not welcome scrutiny and clarification? In a recent email, Supervisor Fixmer-O'Reilly suggested having a public forum to discuss these concerns openly. That seems entirely reasonable. Instead, Supervisor Rod Sullivan shut down the proposal and responded that the county paid for CSSI's expertise and should trust the people they hired unless the researchers themselves believed they missed something. That's like dismissing a new mechanic who says something is seriously wrong with your car because your old mechanic said everything was fine. Upon looking at the study report, what immediately jumped out to me was the lack of any meaningful options or alternatives to building a brand new jail facility. To me, the survey seemed like it was designed to elicit survey results that would show community support for a new jail. Forgive the repeat car analogy, but that's like saying, Mom and Dad agreed to buy me a new car, when in reality, all I did was ask which they liked better, a new SUV or a new convertible. At best, the survey seems severely flawed. At worst, it seems intentionally manipulative. I also want to acknowledge the amount of unpaid labor other members of our community have already put into trying to understand this study, only to be met with friction. Public trust is earned through transparency, accountability, and willingness to engage with criticism, not by avoiding it. And to that end, I'm specifically talking to you, Rod Sullivan, for quickly shutting down discourse, and to John Green, Mandy Remington, and Lisa Green Douglas for not responding at all to concerns raised by the community about the interpretation of this study. On the other hand, I want to thank V. Fixmer-O'Reilly for taking community concerns seriously. We do not want a new jail to be built in Johnson County, and I will do what I can as a community member to continue to fight this initiative. Please, please do better work. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C, work session business. Item C1 this morning is to discuss proposal from Spratt Builders in the amount of $53,245 for historic Poor Farm Dairy Barn Visitor Center remodel. Good morning, Elsa.
Good morning. Ilse DeWald, local food and farm manager. So I'm here today to bring back the historic Poor Farm Visitor Center remodel. We last discussed this a bit of time ago. Since then, we've been working on the historic Poor Farm kitchen project, but now before you, we have quotes for the construction of the visitor center. To remind you all, this is the front room of the dairy barn. So this room currently has not been touched by any other project work. There are still exposed wires in this space, so we would like to get those cleaned up. Have the space be insulated, insert a desk, and have this be a real welcoming space for the farm. This is also where the Johnson County Historical Society would be able to meet tours on site. And we used a quote process, and we received 5 quotes for this work, the cheapest of which and responsive quote was from Spratt Builders in the amount of $53,245. Are there any questions?
Supervisors?
Yeah, I do. So it's my understanding that in this room will be like some exhibits, stuff, like historic items. And I know that we have a small heating unit, but we also have summers in Iowa. And so I was just curious about, is there a potential to do some sort of splitter or something that we can make sure that, we're not exposing whatever artifacts that are in there to inclement weather year round? Is that possible to look into?
I think that would be a possibility, especially because the budget we had for this project was $60,000, and so the quotes did come in under budget. And so we do have some flexibility to accommodate also anything that's found within the construction process, and could utilize that flexibility to explore if we could add not only, just a different form of temperature control beyond just basic heat.
And I guess probably, Johnson County Historical Society might have some ideas for what temperatures those artifacts need to be kept at or something, but that's the only thing I saw. I think it looks really great. I'm very excited about this because we do have, of course, the docent program happening and a lot more other things that are happening. So having a touch point room that is, has some air conditioning and heating is going to be great.
Additional questions or comments, supervisors? Are we good to move this proposal forward? Would we look favorably upon a eventual change order to incorporate a mini split?
I'd rather have them figure out what the best solution is. It's not a very large space, so maybe some kind of portable device could work, but something.
Okay, so we'll move this forward, and please work with our stakeholder groups to determine what the best option is on the HVAC side.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elsa. Item C2 this morning is to discuss American Rescue Plan Act ARPA Grant Amendment Number 1 with Dula Consultants, LLC, and University of Iowa College of Nursing for ARPA Project EC.2.12.01 Community Doulas of Johnson County for formal consideration tomorrow. Good morning.
Good morning. Genevieve Anglin, Grants Manager. This is a very simple amendment that moves $15,000 from the Community Doulas of Johnson County to the University of Iowa subcontracts. The Community Doulas had let us know that they were not going to be able to utilize all of their funds, whereas the university said, we'll definitely be able to use it. So it's all within the same program, and it's just one amendment that moves the money from one to the other.
Supervisors?
So they'll be able to expend it by the end of the calendar year?
I don't recall right off the top. I believe October is the current end date, but it will be done by the time the project period is over,
I just want to say I've heard incredible things about this program, and thank you to Danielle, Public Health, and our grants team for making this happen. It's been very impactful, and especially our underestimated, underrepresented community members to have this doula program.
Okay, thank you, Genevieve. We'll get this approved tomorrow. Item C3 is to discuss bond referendum language for the new sheriff's office and jail project. The background for this morning's discussion is back in October, we informally agreed to target a $99 million bond for a new jail and law enforcement facility that was then estimated to cost about $84 million, with whatever balance of that $99 million going toward affordable housing. We need to be careful about how we discuss this morning. However, I think we can safely say that during the site selection process, a site that I think we all liked a lot, unfortunately didn't work out, and that was going to be the nexus for the affordable housing component. Through the county attorney's office, we are working to acquire a property. We hope that that information can be made public in the coming days. But the five of us working under the assumption that that will be the property should be the focus of our conversation this morning. In the packet, you have 4 examples of bond language that were used in other initiatives across the state. So that's the source of these examples. And so I just want to open it up so we can give direction to bond counsel to develop language for the ballot. The timing this morning is driven by the schedule that we must keep in order to get the language through bond counsel, and then for us to formally vote to place it on the November ballot.
I have a point of order question.
Of course.
I have, very consistently said, including my red statement at that October meeting where I was dealing with a family emergency, that while I support addressing the issues that we have in the jail, I support building a new jail that is safe. I do not support that $99 million number or the suggested expansion. And so I have a question as to when that X gets filled in, and is that in another public work session? I want to make sure that we're not approving a blank number that's going to be decided on behind closed doors between others later. Yeah. So the X will be filled in today as part of this. Okay. In that case, then, I also don't think that we've actually quantified what it costs to design systems like HVAC and kitchen capacity to support an expansion to 240 beds. If we're going to be talking about upsizing core systems like that to support a potential eventual population of that size, I think that it's really important that we understand what portion of the project costs are tied to that assumption.
Can I
Please
respond to that part about the systems and whether they can support the expansion? And that actually came up in our meeting. It was on Monday with our consultant from Chi-County. We asked that very question. So, in fact, it will be built such that the extra space that might happen years from now with the extra bed space is already going to have sufficient power, space, whatever capacity in the kitchen, the systems for cooling, heating.
Yeah, I understand that that's the proposal. That's why I'm asking what the cost estimate of that portion is.
Right.
Compared to if we didn't create systems that could expand to 240. What is the cost estimate of the difference for an HVAC system that supports 240 versus an HVAC system that supports 100? What is the cost associated with the kitchen service that supports 240 versus kitchen service that supports 100? That is information we need to have when we're making this decision, and we don't have it.
There's HVAC doesn't work that way. I mean, that's not how you really are designing space to put more units.
And how much does that cost?
Right, but I'm just explaining, you're not putting in more units. You're just creating the space to put them so that they could go a different direction if you added a pod or something. So, yes, there's going to be a little bit of difference, but we're talking some square footage is all. I think the kitchen is going to be similar in that a lot of it is just, could you expand a certain direction? I'm sure somebody could put exact numbers to it, but
Yeah, and I think we need those exact numbers when we're discussing this.
Oh, just also a point of clarification for the record for the public. The jail committee is the one that has been doing a lot of this background work, and I appreciate that. Could you, who is on the committee? Just so-
It is the vice chair and myself, the sheriff, county attorney, deputy county attorney, auditor, facilities manager, the board office executive director, the board office special projects manager, the board office communications director, the attorney and sheriff's shared public information officer, our finance director. Am I missing anyone?
And to be clear, thank you for that. To be clear, I mean, when we're talking about building space to have a capacity for 240 versus 140, the HVAC system itself would have to be built to that. It's not just space, but I own a home, and if I were to add an extra level to my home, I would probably have to upgrade the system to do that.
you add units. We've done that here. We've done that in the building across the street.
Right.
You just have the space to bring in the additional unit, which is what you would do.
Right.
If you ever voted to expand it.
I don't think that we have that information. The other thing that I'll say is none of these, and I appreciate, John talking about how the previous site that we had, there was more affordable housing on there. But I think I have been very clear that any bond language should include affordable housing. And also, I think in about a week and a half, we have another meeting to discuss that very aspect of it. Is, are we going to have bond language that will talk about affordable housing in conjunction with this jail bond? And that we haven't even really discussed if they're going to be separate things or if they're going to be put together. So having not been a part of the committee, I was a little bit surprised to see that there's no mention of affordable housing in here, because I did think that was going to be included and then we would discuss that. So
We can discuss that.
Yeah.
The reason that it's not in there is because nobody else has ever attempted to do that. So these 4 examples are taken from other bond referenda from across the state.
Okay.
No, to the best of my knowledge, and of course this isn't exhaustive, but to the best of my knowledge, no other county has countenanced what we have been discussing.
Sure.
And so there is no example for that language.
One thing other counties have done, not necessarily in Iowa, but that I did have included in the statement that our executive director read for me at that meeting that I was dealing with a family emergency at, is broader public safety ballot measures that include things like field mediation, fire department building support, all of those kinds of things, which is why my proposal was to ask for a 1-to-1 match for other parts of public safety to improve the balance of our investments in public safety. I just want to remind folks of that. And somehow the housing came out of that conversation, but my initial proposal was a 1-to-1 public safety match.
Yeah. And I remember I actually was rereading that, and I think that along those lines, even though you weren't in that meeting, unfortunately, was the understanding that affordable housing is an upstream
absolutely
way to address our jail population, and that affordable housing can also be expanded to folks with physical disabilities, things like that we could try and reach, potentially some mental health impacts that we know we see in the jail, which is absolutely present in the report that we received. So I agree. There were, I was looking over the proposal that you had, and some of the expansions to public safety include the ecosystem of public safety, not just the jail, which I think is incredibly important. So I do think this is premature, I guess is what I'm saying, because we haven't had the conversation about affordable housing, whether or not that's going to be included. And I understand that other counties have not done this in this state. It has been done in other states, and I think Johnson County is really good at leading the way for these kinds of initiatives. So I agree with kind of this feels a little premature. I know we're dealing with a deadline, so I
thank you for putting this in front of us. Drafts are always hard because then you can kind of dismantle them, but we do need to be looking at something. And so those are just my comments, is that I think it's premature. We haven't had the conversation about affordable housing. And I just reviewed Mandy's proposal about public safety and potentially there being an opportunity to look at the ecosystem of public safety, not just the jail.
One of the tensions that we have inherent in this process, and we heard some frustrations expressed in public comment about this, is that it is difficult to answer all the questions about various price estimates, because we need to have sufficient direction to develop a proposal. And we want to do that publicly with the direction of the full board. But yes, we've invested some money with Shive Hattery, with CSSI, and so trying to shepherd this conversation this morning with the uncertainty, but with the background that we have developed over a couple of years of work. And so whatever the outcome of our conversation this morning, it's not going to be a binding vote on the language. It will be submitting whatever the consensus is to bond counsel for perfection, and that would be the time that we would formally vote on bond language. The reason for the timing of the affordable housing meeting next week is for the same reason. If there were to be a November bond question about affordable housing, that needs to be moving forward as well. So that's the background for the timing and some of the unresolved questions that you folks have.
Yeah, that's why I don't know necessarily if we can have a full conversation about this today until we have that conversation. So I don't have any further comments on this.
Okay. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, everyone. Sheriff Brad Kunkel. Just so I'm clear, you're, instead of pursuing and pushing for a bond referendum on something we've been talking about extensively for almost 4 years, but largely as long as really I've been in law enforcement and some of you have been on the Board of Supervisors. And now you seriously want to shift to asking the taxpayers for $198 million?
No, I never said the $98 million to begin with, and I'm not shifting anything. This is consistent with what I said back in October and what I've said for the entire. I'm still speaking. Is this consistent with what I said back in October and what I have said the entire time that I have been in office?
So 1-to-1 match for what we're talking about for the scope of the sheriff's office and jail. Let's assume 99 is where you folks land. Then a 1-to-1 match, an additional $99 million for housing and ancillary supports. Am I understanding that correctly?
Again, I never agreed to the $99 million to begin with, but yes, a 1-to-1 match of our investment in the jail and the sheriff's office with other public safety investments. It's been brought to my attention that we have a fire department in Tiffin that's just as old as the jail, and that they cannot safely bring teenagers in there for doing learning opportunities. And they want to know why they have to pancake breakfast that while the sheriff's office and, paramedics departments don't. And that's a good question.
Sure. And my question then would be, is it the taxpayer's responsibility in North Liberty or Lone Tree to have their tax dollars pay for a fire station in Tiffin? Or the opposite of that, is it the taxpayer's responsibility is, as a Tiffin resident, to support a fire station in Solon? I think we can all agree the answer is no. When you're talking about the scope of the sheriff's office and jail, it's a county-wide service. It's a county office. Every taxpayer has a responsibility to support that. It's no different than supporting the office of the auditor or the office you folks hold. It's different. If you're talking about, if you're serious about a 1-to-1 match and for almost $200 million, I think we all know that won't pass. If you come to the voters with anything other than a ballot language that is simple on the issue we've been focusing on for almost 4 years, I think you know that will fail. And I can't stand out there and support a bond referendum for $90+ million for the sheriff's office and jail, and then an equal amount for something that none of you can really define and say this is a tangible result that we might never see. The two things are related, but you can't put them together on the same ballot. I think that will fail.
Actually, no. It's been very successful in many other communities, and I don't have the proposal in front of me right now that I brought in October, but I gave several examples of many communities in which a large public safety bond measure that included a jail and other public safety investments. And I mean, we have public safety investments that we can make that are available to the whole county. We're starting a field mediation program that will be available throughout the entire county. And one of the things that we got back, if we want to trust the survey that we got, most of the folks who did have issues with supporting the jail had issues because of concerns with the continued investment in the current system and the overcriminalization of various things. Those were the problems that people identified. So if we want to put something that will pass, we need to address that. I do want a safe jail while we are putting people in jail. I am not confident that we're going to get that if you put a $100 million jail with an increase in capacity like this on the ballot with no other supports to address anything that the community is bringing to us. I think it will fail.
And I think that we've been consistently saying that, actually.
I disagree. I do think it will pass. I think if you put forth a almost $200 million bond referendum, here's the other thing. It is going to fail.
This isn't, we talk about the survey that happened, which I think we should have more discussions about. But we also did a strategic plan recently. And I will tell you consistently across the county, the number one issue, whether you're in this building or out in the county, is affordable housing. And that is keeping people in their homes. And when I think about the investment of having $100 million for affordable housing, and when I say affordable housing, I mean a broad spectrum. I'm talking about permanent supportive housing, getting our unhoused folks the services that they need, the wraparound services that they need so that they're not taxing our public safety, our medical professionals and the ER overwhelming our hospitals, those kinds of things. We have seen consistently those, it's not like we're making this up. I mean, there are so many things that we could point to that are upstream that actually address what is going on in the jail. And I agree with Mandy, we need a safer place for people who are incarcerated and people who are serving them. 100%. And I disagree that this is the way to do it. I also think that if you were to invest significantly in an array of safe, affordable housing, think about the additional benefits. We're talking about generational wealth building. We're talking about our manufactured housing folks potentially having places that are safer for them and their kids and being able to stay in their school districts. You create stability and you start actually investing in our community in the way that they can build generational wealth for generations, and you put that up against a jail that actually takes people out of their homes, disrupts their work, and quite frankly is institutionally racist, then no, there's no comparison in my mind that is going to be the thing that I want to spend $100 million blanket without a one-to-one at the very least. At the very least. And I think that Mandy and I have been consistent about wanting to introduce public safety and looking at upstream impact. So to get this kind of bond language is actually insulting to the whole process.
And I'm not saying you haven't been consistent. You have been consistent in your belief and in the path you wish to take. I'm telling you, $198 million is going to fail.
So regardless of how we proceed, one thing that I am hearing is, Mandy and V, you would appreciate if we would ask of Shive Hattery to get us the square footage cost for the built-out but unimproved spaces.
I want to know the total cost of everything involved with preparing the facility to potentially expand to that 240. I want to know what that full cost is.
I believe you're going to get three numbers. The first, three buckets. One I don't know that we can quantify, which is site selection, purchasing sufficient property for a physical build-out decades down the road. The second is going to be 1 square footage cost for the build out of the mechanical spaces. And then the second or the third bucket would be the square footage cost for the 20 shelled out, because there's a pretty significantly higher per square foot cost for those portions.
If I remember correctly, I think one of the pods, which is 10, was about $1 million. So.
And they come in different configurations.
Yeah, exactly. And that was last year.
Rod, Lisa?
Well, I want to talk first of all a little bit about this survey.
This is about the bond language.
I know, but people keep referring to the survey. I don't know. Mr. Chair,
I think that if it advances the discussion of the bond language, it's germane.
Well, okay. You tell me if you think I'm
Thank
off topic. I just find the whole thing kind of insulting. CSSI, if you go on their website, you see the 100 different PhD researchers who work at the University of Iowa who contribute to that. The several who were on the project itself and did the work. I mean, I think it's amazing that somebody randomly questions it way after the fact. I mean, we had more than one meeting to talk about the results. And way after the fact, somebody questions it. And suddenly, that's the kind of thing that deserves a huge audience. I make this comparison. It's not that hard to find somebody to question vaccine policy.
Is it sufficient to say, Rod, that having reviewed the pedigree of CSSI, that you find the survey results to be informative for how you wish to proceed with this?
Bond language?
Well, and the way okay. I guess then, do I need a point of personal privilege? Maybe I should have talked during public comment. I feel like I'm being shut down here. We talked that we want more conversation, but now we don't want more conversation.
I absolutely want a conversation about this survey that they put together, but this is not that conversation. So I have asked for a conversation and unfortunately couldn't get it onto the agenda today. And so I have asked for it for next week. And so we can have that conversation.
Are we going to pay them to come in and defend their work?
I'm certain that they would want to come in and defend their work if that's what they want to do.
I mean, I do think
But
it's
I do
think it's akin to RFK, and you can find somebody to question the scientific results all you want, but the scientific results are what they are, and I have great faith in the people at CSSI that this is good work.
Well, and I don't doubt that they also agree with that. And so to have that full conversation, if there is questioning and concern, I don't see why they wouldn't want to come in and talk about it.
Well, because they have jobs and they have work to do, and are we going to pay them to come in and do it?
We literally have people from the public that have similar jobs and are coming in.
And that's at their choice, because they're not the ones being attacked.
Well, I just think that I'm saying that we have a conversation that we can have about this next week. I tried to put it on the.
I'll forget that, but I'll just say that I have tremendous faith in the work that they did. When I take the research that they did, I don't make any comments about how one should interpret it. I say, it's on our website, on the sheriff's page. Go look at it, and you'll see what the results were.
Excuse me, Supervisors, I think you need to move on from the
Okay.
discussion of this. You're talking about the bond language.
Okay.
I mean, head shaking, whatever.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
move on
Okay.
to talking about what you're
Okay. All right. But I wanted to briefly address some of the things that Councilor Burgess brought up, because I think some of it deserves to be addressed. Typos in our language, we don't have any language. So there are no typos in it because we don't have language. That's what we're talking about.
These are examples from other
from other
initiatives.
places, and they're not ours. So there's no typos in it because it's not ours. So if there's a typo in something from Clinton County, you'll have to bring it up with them. Dollar amount is not in there because we're deciding that today. So yeah, there's no dollar amount in there. That's the whole point of the discussion. So, and the idea that
somebody was voted, that we voted to remove an Iowa City representative. I don't recall that ever happening. Do you recall that happening?
It was at the previous CJCC meeting.
And we voted to remove somebody from Iowa City. I don't recall that vote.
Aaron?
I can clarify. I inherited this committee from the county attorney's office, and I went through all of the housekeeping, and on the list, I said there were Sean Harmson, and I can't remember. It might have been Laura. I'm sorry. You're right, the chief. And I said, do they still need to be on here since we're not working together anymore? Innocently, like I didn't know. And then the group was like, yeah, fine. And then we did clarify in the meeting that they, of course, can come to any meeting. We are public, but as for being a board member, no.
So there was no vote?
No, I was just, I don't know. We're pretty informal at the committee.
Okay. Yeah.
But if it's a problem, we can put them back on. We were not.
Well, yeah, I certainly never voted.
I'm just trying to
remove
understand what I
anybody.
inherited.
Yeah, I just so it's clear. I never voted to throw anybody off, and
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't
both
that
of
at all.
those people had been here from the beginning. So
Because we don't have Coralville, North Liberty, and the other
Yeah.
police departments on. So it was just a thought that I had,
Okay,
but
I
if it
just
was
wanna make
wrong,
sure that
we can fix it.
I just want to make sure that that's said, that that's clear.
I think for future reference, there's no executive summary attached to this, and so there's a lot of questions. The fact that you're even saying that this isn't language and that it's not from us, like I had no idea where this language came from, and so an executive summary in the future would really be helpful. I feel like anytime I have to put something on the agenda, I have to have an executive summary, so Chair, please, like I just think that for the future reference, something like this, I mean, the public has no idea. As do I. I had no idea that this was copy and pasted. I literally thought you all have been in committee and meeting regularly. And so I assumed that this was the language.
It's in Aaron's email.
So,
But that's not included in the packet.
No,
to
but
clarify on that,
you know, 'cause it says it.
we, at our last meeting, had been talking about language, and should we look at language that we've used before on our past ballot measures for this very thing? And the auditor said, oh, I've already sent out a request to different counties that have recently done this to get, some of their bond language. I'll provide that. And so we decided that kind of baseline that we need something to start from. Expand, reduce, whatever we need to do to it, but something to start from rather than just starting from a blank page. So that's what this is. It came from, I don't remember which counties were the ones that she sent out the request to, but this came from our auditor.
Yeah, I just want to note that the item 3 says discuss bond referendum language for new sheriff's office and jail project. So that is in fact what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Argument.
Lisa, more broadly, would you like to?
So, I mean, I think that, we're here to start. It's not going to be necessarily the finished product, but to start. And you're correct. There is no dollar amount because we are in the process of seeking the site. Because the city, as you know, pretty much kind of backed out of that one part. And so we needed to shift, and we needed to, if we were going to do it for this year, we needed to get working on that. So that is currently under negotiation, and we will have that soon. That number is going to be included in here. So that's why that's blank. The 84 million that we had discussed did not include enough in there for the site because we were considering a site that was already owned by the city. In option 1 and 2, there's some enumeration that I don't have any problem with what's there, but I would also like maybe an addition of, I mean, it's obviously not an it says including, it doesn't necessarily indicate that it's an exhaustive listing, but I think that it's important for people voting on this to know that part of what would be included is space for services programming for the people who are incarcerated. We met in one of the CJCC meetings with several people who work with populations coming out of incarceration, education within the facilities. And so, include that there would be space that would double as education space, consultation with community providers for reentry, probation and parole. To have an on-site space is a lot easier than waiting until after release, because it sort of transitions. Those kinds of, and we were talking about the idea of one space that could be used for all of those things or be sectioned off. But I think that there are important things that the public should know are being considered and included. So.
I agree. I think that's important to put that language in there. I don't know exactly what it would say, but I think that's an important consideration.
My inclination would be to add that onto the end of option 3. Solve current safety, security, and space needs of the jail and sheriff's office, and provide education and community consultant space, or however we want to word that part.
I do want to reiterate that I think that it's good to have this draft language, and certainly adding these in, and that after our affordable housing meeting we can also massage this more, because I feel like there's just I don't think we have everything really to get to a place. And I know that folks want to have a dollar amount in here, but I just don't see that happening today, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be comfortable with the dollar amount until I know what is it tied to
So it's like the
potential
first
expansion.
conversation, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
Well, this goes back to the chicken or the egg thing, which is we need a dollar amount to know what to design to. And, what the committee and what CJCC has been doing has been trying to develop our knowledge well enough to be able to project towards a number, but it is at our discretion to determine what that number should be. And then Mandy, you're talking about option 3 with some additional language. I think it is important to have a dollar amount in there, but also a clear statement on capacity.
Yeah, and I think that location also is key in terms of the cost amount, the dollar amount, and obviously we can't disclose that. So again, I appreciate the drafts. I think that I would have an option 5, 6, and 7 to this for our next conversation that is really around public safety and affordable housing and what that looks like too. Because if these are going onto the bond, whether they're separate or together, like if they're going onto the ballot separate or together, we need to know that. And that is a discussion next week. Yeah. So I guess all I'm saying right now is that I appreciate the draft. I don't think that there's really much more we can discuss in terms of moving this forward because we don't have all of the information.
Well, the way that we typically do this, having done bonds before, we give them the basic language. The bond counsel will come back with a couple of examples specific, and they'll say, A or B. And we typically then have a discussion about A or B. I think what we need to do is fill in a number, go to bond counsel, they will come back with something like this, except more specific for us, and then we vote.
Well, the problem is that it could be 198 million. So we don't know. And that's what I'm trying to say.
We don't know. You don't know. I think the question is today, are there 3 people willing to fill a number?
It is.
It's unbelievable. This is a discussion, by the way. This is not a vote. And we know how things get made here. And this draft is actually incredibly important if that's what's going to bond counsel. And I think the public needs to know that. That's outrageous.
How so?
Well, because we don't even have all the information here. We don't have the location. We don't have the actual bed numbers. We don't know how much.
Location is usually not in there.
But it could be.
But
But I'm,
But
and also that will determine the cost. And so we don't know how much the expansion, is it 240? Is it 140? Are we sizing it so that it is 240? And so there's just not enough information here.
Those are decisions we can make this morning, that we should make this
But
morning.
we don't even have the information to make that decision, is what I'm saying.
What additional information do you need?
What Mandy just said, we don't have the cost estimate for what, we just had somebody from the public here say that 35 million was what was actually needed. Was that right? 35 million? Okay. Do we want to start with that number? I mean, what numbers are we talking about?
My understanding, and it could be incorrect, is that the 35 million probably came from the facilities audit, and that would be for the current facility. So I think that's where that number came from. Okay. The paradox that we're in is that if the committee does sufficient work to bring the information to answer your questions, then the accusation is, well, the cake's already baked. And so we have been working mostly on site acquisition. Mm-hmm. Now, although we cannot publicly talk about that site, we have a site. We know what that dollar amount is, mm-hmm. The five of us do. Mm-hmm. And that is moving in parallel with this conversation. It's because there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I know you do.
And so, and additionally, we haven't had a conversation about affordable housing, which we've been talking about this whole time, which is why I think we can't have a number here, because it could be 198 million, or it could be 35 million.
We're having that conversation next week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, can we move this to after we have that conversation?
We also had, part of the negotiation that we were having when we were talking about affordable housing was, can we get all five people to yes? Mm-hmm. But then you voted no.
Yeah, because we changed sites.
Right. So then I think that takes everything off the table.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
We've all been talking about affordable housing.
No,
affordable housing is the number one.
We had an agreement on a
study.
Specific thing.
Yeah.
And then because the site changed and you said no,
right.
Now we don't have an agreement. That's how agreements work.
An agreement. I think that, simplifying things in this way is incredibly insulting. So we can have a conversation about affordable housing and what Johnson County needs and then have this conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think they're
I don't understand
they're separate issues.
Circular logic here.
They're separate issues.
No, they're not.
They are separate issues.
We had an agreement that was based on contingencies. The contingencies changed, and that is what brought us to today.
Right.
I wish that the site that we had been working on had come together, because I think that would have been, I think it was a good site. I think it had other benefits in the affordable housing realm that we had discussed, but unfortunately, that site is unattainable for us.
Doesn't mean that we cannot still have affordable housing.
It does not. However, that particular site, it worked out so well that I thought that it was workable to do both in the same bond language. I don't think if we're going to do a one-to-one or whatever the numbers are, I do think that they need to be two separate questions. And so I think we can address these questions this morning, which will inform our discussion next week about affordable housing. I just think that given our capacity, given the calendar, I think we have to keep moving forward. Because if we do make a decision next week that we want whatever we set X here this morning, if we decide that's the same X that we want for affordable housing, they're going to have to get that to bond council for them to perfect that language. And it's going to take time for us to get it back and get it approved so that one or both could be on the ballot.
I just want to go on record again saying that I think having them as separate measures is, I just think that Johnson County is the county that would actually pass something if it was together as opposed to separate. I think that what you're going to see is if we separate these two, it is, I want to believe that in Johnson County, we want to meet people where they're at and actually provide investments in our community that are going to help people as opposed to just provide a new space for incarceration. So that being said, obviously I am one supervisor. I think that this is insufficient information. I think that we can have this same conversation next week and have a much more robust conversation about what this is. And so that is where I'm at with that. I think that there's just, and I understand that we have to move things forward. You know, that's the way that the gears grind. And we do have time.
So
we do have time.
May I respond? You were talking about, we all have been talking about affordable housing. And you're correct. It's first Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
And we have been talking about it. But as far as consistency, I have said from the beginning that I think putting it into the same bond referendum as the jail and sheriff's office facility muddies the issues, that they should be two separate things. And I've said that from the beginning. You two both said you would not be on board unless it included affordable housing. So that was called a compromise. Okay, well, then we will consider it in that way. And now you've pulled out. Mm-hmm. You said, well, you know people who would only vote for it if it had that in it.
Again, not the affordable housing. I agree that we need affordable housing. That's a priority. No, my proposal was for one-to-one public safety investment.
No, I'm talking about before that. Before you even said that no, we need it in there. It was in a CJCC meeting, and then in here, there were people that would only vote for it if it had affordable housing in it. Again, compromised. I thought all along those people aren't going to vote for it anyway. But it's like, okay, to find ways. Let's see if that opens it up. You two have both pulled out on. Well, you have, I don't know where you are in it, on even supporting the location that's being considered. And it's like, okay, so, and you were the more vocal one in terms of only being on board if it contained this measure. Mm-hmm. So, frankly, the compromise that we come to with that was because of you. Yeah, the affordable housing piece being part of this language. I still think it should be two separate measures. While there's, yes, it's providing upstream type services, and increasing housing stuff, all of that. It's two separate things. And I think you both know that if they were together, the bond will fail.
I disagree. I actually think it would pass. I think that's the Johnson County that we have, is that you would have a better chance at looking at taking care of people's basic needs and putting that together with incarceration. I actually think people would be like, well, do I want people to have more stability and investment in, generational wealth building and wraparound services for mental health, like all of those things? They would be probably more likely to improve the conditions in our jail because we know that they are absolutely abhorrent. They would be more likely to support both. That's my personal opinion. I sit here as one supervisor, and I have consistently said that.
A few minutes ago, Mandy had started to discuss adding some stuff to option 3. Mm-hmm. Would either of you like to build upon that proposal? Because we have it before us, or to offer a different proposal?
Yeah, once we have the conversation about affordable housing. That was my understanding. Was that I actually was thinking that this conversation would happen after we had the affordable housing, because there was a question from Supervisor Sullivan as to whether or not we were going to include it even on the bond measure, because we don't technically have to have it on the ballot, but he wanted it on the ballot, or to discuss whether or not it should be on the ballot. Yeah. So
what did I ask for?
It was.
You wanted, you had said because we can bond, technically under Iowa code, we can bond for affordable housing without going to a ballot
Right.
measure. And so,
Right.
but you had said, I would prefer it go to the vote.
Well, I think if you're gonna ask for,
Right.
$100 million, then
So we
people
should
ought-
have the
ought to
conversation.
Vote on it.
Yeah.
There's no, need to necessarily do that today.
Right. And in fact, we're doing it next week. That's the whole point of next week's meeting.
But much like Lisa, I don't think these two things should be together.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that I was willing to put it together in the first place was to get the votes of you and Mandy,
Mm-hmm.
so that the five of us could sit up here and say, we all agree.
Okay, great. Well, let's
And so-
add affordable housing to
so-
option 3.
But see, you pulled out on the site, and when you pulled out on the site, now we're back to square one. I mean, you don't get to just change all the terms.
I don't know why.
I have invited V to offer a proposal.
Yeah.
And so,
I would like to say that while we've got these options here, I looked back at the language that we used here, and I think that it's just a little bit more, first of all, it's easier to add any kind of enumerated list that we want to. But I think it's better.
What are you looking at, Lisa?
I'm looking at the bond language that we used here in Johnson County the last time this was on.
Oh.
Yeah.
It failed.
So of course, the dollar amount could be different, and they were referring to it as county justice center. So sheriff's office and jail facility. But it says after that, to solve current safety, security, and space needs of the sheriff, jail, and court operations. I think just before that, we could put in the list, the enumerated list of things that we would want in there that would address space for, services and consulting and education services for incarcerated individuals. And it's really easily inserted. I could, Aaron, I will just copy paste this and send it to you and you can distribute it. Sure. Okay.
So to John's question about my proposal, if we go with option 3, I would add a 1-to-1 match for affordable housing
okay.
to option 3.
Are you talking about, when you say that, are you talking about a 1-to-1 match in the bond itself? That's how much we would bond for? Correct. So basically double. Okay, I would not support that.
Okay. Do you have a dollar on that?
For a 1-to-1 match, whatever our dollar amount is, then.
Well, I mean, we need to have the dollar amount to design a facility for the jail and sheriff's office.
Correct.
And so,
Whatever dollar amount that is, we'll match that.
well, right, what number are you comfortable with?
So this is the question that Mandy has about the expansion, and I don't have that number. So I am for whatever number is 120 beds that we had said. Whatever will support that is a 1-to-1 match for affordable housing. And I don't know what that. I don't know if we know what that is. Do you?
The latest best estimate is 94.5.
But that includes the HVAC system and kitchen service for up to 240. I want to know what the difference is there.
You keep saying that, but it doesn't include that. It includes space to add that.
Okay, and how much does that
But
cost?
you've got to say it right.
I mean, that's-
HVAC is millions of dollars.
Well, that's how Sheriff Kunkel has come in and said, he said it will be built with the ability for the HVAC system and kitchen services to support up to 240. That's what I heard when he was at the podium a couple weeks ago.
He misspoke. Because what he means is to have space to expand that.
Okay, well, regardless, the current
It's not
plan,
regardless because it's important language.
the current plan that has been suggested to us, which, that is a key important point here. We're not voting right now on the design that was given to us. I support a new jail. I do not support the current design that has been handed to us, and that's not what we're voting on today. I just want to make sure that the public knows that, because the public keeps coming towards us thinking that this plan that has been handed to us is something that we've all had a robust conversation and agreed on, and that's not the case.
What about the design
But
do you want?
I want to know how much of the cost that has been presented to us is associated with an assumed expansion.
I will guess that it's under $1 million.
I'm not satisfied with a guess when I'm making a decision on a dollar number to put on a ballot.
We have to have the dollar amount to inform the design.
John, can you get that number for next week? Can we have this conversation next week after we have the affordable housing conversation, after we have the actual amount? Like, is that asking too much? Because I think the point of a work session is to get to an understanding, like, there's no vote that's happening today, right? So what I think Mandy and I are saying is that there's insufficient information here to get to a place where you can send it to bond council. So it would be helpful if we had the public meeting and then we had the detail of the cost of expansion, because under $1 million, I mean, I'm not sure what are we even talking about, you know? Like, I just think that, and then, you know, we're just throwing around $1 million. I mean, it just doesn't seem like we have enough information. And I would think that the board would want to have integrity moving forward with a sound decision on what we send to bond council, because that is what will come back to us and that is what we will vote on. So you can already see the pathway that we're setting down is what I think we're trying to say. Can you pause for a minute and come back next week with that information so we can actually have a robust conversation about it?
If you look at the languages that are in here, there's some very important language, and they all read this way on purpose. In an amount not to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
So everything has to be less than that. That's why you put that language in. Because honestly, nobody knows exactly what it will cost.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impossible, right? So you say in an amount not to exceed. So you're putting a cap. It doesn't mean you have to spend, if that's 50 million, it doesn't mean you have to spend 50. You can spend 49. You just can't spend 51.
Yeah, I'm familiar with contract comfort, like.
Okay, well then I don't understand what part you don't understand. You put an amount in, and then if we're less than that, we're okay. We simply don't bond for that amount of money.
I'll tell you what I don't understand. What I don't understand is how the rest, like how we as a board can have any integrity moving forward with a decision that doesn't even have sufficient information. That's what I'm questioning. I'm not questioning the language that apparently isn't language. I'm not questioning what is being said here. I understand that it's up to a certain amount. I'm just saying we don't even have enough information to say what that amount is. And that does matter.
Aaron, remind me, when on the draft timetable would we expect a GMP?
Oh, boy. Can you?
Not till
I will
Okay.
when I get the.
So to clarify, that assumes CMAR process, probably not till after the vote.
Okay, so one of the frustrations that we're dealing with is that we are contemplating a different method of construction management than we have previously used. It's called a construction manager at risk, and the advantage of using this method is that it removes a good degree of financial risk from the county, because what that GMP that I was asking about is the construction manager at risk who we would hire down the road would develop the architectural plan to the point where they could provide to this Board of Supervisors a guaranteed maximum price. Part of the contract negotiation with the construction manager at risk would be, what do we do if they are able to beat that price? So let's say that their GMP is 100 million and they get it done for 90. Part of the contract negotiation is, does the CMR maybe get to keep 5 million and 5 million in savings are returned to the county? But all of that would have to happen in negotiations with a firm that we haven't identified or engaged with yet. And so I don't know if we continue with CMR, I don't know that we can get the specific information on what it would cost, what the square footage would look like to build out smaller mechanical spaces. I think it's about $1 million or less than, but it would be after November before architectural plans got developed to the point.
I understand that estimates are estimates.
Right.
I get that.
I'm trying to explain the process
I
to the
get it,
public
yeah.
because CMR is new and it's different from how the county has built stuff previously. Apologies for.
No. I mean, I understand estimates. Even an estimate of what the difference would be helpful in this conversation. That's all.
And that's exactly what I was referring to, the different square footage prices.
Yeah, because Shive Hattery has provided us with a suggested design and an estimated cost. I would like to see what the estimated cost of that suggested design without planning for a potential eventual expansion to 240 would be. I don't know why that seems to be a difficult question. I think that it is crucial information for us to have when we are setting what I understand is a cap. I'm not sure why that felt the need to be explained, but the cap is what voters are going to see on the ballot.
So let me ask you then. John threw out 1 million. John's been pretty involved in this, so it wouldn't shock me if John is not too far off. Let's say it's 6 times that. Let's say it's 6 million, which I think is not even going to be close. But let's say 1 versus 6. Does that change how you would vote on things?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to
So for
vote.
1 million, you would vote for it.
No, I'm not going.
I mean, my point is you're not going to vote for it, period.
I don't know why you're saying that. I would vote to put on the ballot a jail that has 92 beds. I've said that from the beginning.
Well,
I would vote for that. I was willing to compromise up to the 100, even though I was not happy about it. I am not willing to support asking voters to spend millions of dollars to support a potentially future level of capacity that none of our data shows we need. On the sheriff's own website, in over 6 years, we have had 3 months where we've exceeded 100 people in custody, and that includes the people that are not at the current facility. That includes those who are being sent elsewhere. So I'm not comfortable, whether we're talking about doing that expansion now or in the future, it's part of what we're asking taxpayers to fund. And I'm not comfortable
Okay,
with
I
that.
want to stop you for a second. Sheriff, I don't think that's correct. Can you come up and, because I think that's incorrect information. Do you have any idea? Our average right now is about, what, 93?
Yeah, that's pretty
And
close.
so
I think
how-
March, our ADP was 95.
How many, okay, 95 in
95,
March?
I think, was March.
Okay, and so how many days did we exceed 100 people that would be in our custody?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. But we've had a handful of days where we're over 100.
Since when?
Just in the last month or so.
Okay.
I know we had a conversation about it. I
Okay,
think
so
one
what
day.
you said there is incorrect.
I mean, it's on the sheriff's own website. They have their statistics, their jail population statistics from the last 6 years. In those 6 years, there are only 3 months where the average daily population has been over
It's
100.
not the last 6 years. It stops at 2024. If you go look at it.
No, I have looked at it.
Well,
and we've
he's right here.
And it's definitely it's more than 2 years old. Right, but it's on the website. So if what's on the website is incorrect, then I imagine that's his responsibility within his department to take care of, but that's what the website says.
The website's not incorrect, so I'm not sure what you're
I'll
getting
pull it
at.
up and I'll send you the link. I'll send it to both of you today.
I
after
know
this
last
work
year, I think
session.
our peak population in 2025 was 118. But also around December, we can get as low, I've seen 75. I mean, we see fluctuations. And one of the things I know has been talked about in here before is you have to plan for peak. It's not just looking at your average. You have to look at those high marks too, because jail populations ebb and flow. We've had instances where we've had 8 to 10 out of county. 2 weeks ago, we had almost 30 on top of the custody people we have in the current facility. So these numbers, they go up and down. You have to plan for those peak populations. And when this first quarter of the year, we're consistently we have ADPs of well over 90. I think that's a sign.
Question. I know we have warning siren testing on Wednesdays, but is this a
First Monday,
actual
the first
testing?
Wednesday.
I know. I mean, I know. He said a no. I just didn't know because this is the second one. I just wanted to make sure because the first one happened at 10. Just want to double check for public safety.
I'm
Since we're talking about that. Okay.
So I want to go back to something Supervisor Remington said. So, I mean, basically, Mandy, you're not going to vote for anything over 92 beds.
That's not what I just said. I said I was willing to compromise up to the 100.
Okay. So
I voted for the site. I am not comfortable with this expansion. And I don't know, I don't see myself voting for something up to 240, particularly without having the information about what that associated cost is.
The expansion is from 120.
Yes, the expansion is for 120, but we're asking
No,
tax.
from 120.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at, and then and with the capacity to expand 20 more.
Yeah, but in the report itself, it is to build out HVAC and kitchen for 240. I mean, my God, can you just look at the report?
To go from,
And I know that it's an extra building, but that is what is indicated in the report.
we cannot answer that question
And
because we.
my point.
No. We cannot answer that question because we don't know if, and if the answer is yes, when that expansion would come. So, we can't estimate capital construction costs 4 decades in the future.
I know that. I am not talking about this. So for point of clarification.
Well, no, wait.
Rod, please, Rod.
Yeah, but I got interrupted way back. I still have to
I'm so
clarify
sorry.
something with Mandy.
I'm sorry.
Also,
Go ahead.
Well, we're clarifying something with me too, though. JohnsonCountyIowa.gov-sheriff-jail-stats. I don't know where you're getting 2023, but it goes down to FY 2015 through FY 2026. I'm looking at it right now on my computer. So I don't know why you're saying it's only to 2023. We have FY,
I thought it stopped at 20.
nope, 15 through 26 right there on the website.
Okay. Sheriff, you want to take a look at that? Take a look at it.
Averages and peaks.
Okay. So going back. So now you said your number then is 100. So you're not going to vote for anything over 100 people.
We don't have language in front of us yet. I don't know what kind of compromises could potentially be made, but that's where I see myself sitting right now.
Okay.
It would take a lot to get me beyond that.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out where votes are. And so if you're not going to vote for anything over 100 people, or you think it would take the stars and the moon to get you to vote over 100, then I think if we're going to continue, if at least 3 of us feel like the need is for something larger than that, then we're not going to be able to count on your vote. Is that fair?
Mandy just said that without knowing what additional factors we might countenance, she might potentially support something. So
I mean, I'm just trying to count a little.
No,
So-
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Vivi.
And the capacity of 100 hasn't been on the table for a long time. It's been 120.
Yep, that's what the majority of the board has agreed on. I've never said that I supported it. That is what the majority of the board has agreed on.
Yes. Back to you, Vivi.
I just am trying to say that, in terms of our conversation today and what we're looking at, my understanding is that there is not enough information. You asked me for a proposal. I added affordable housing for 1-to-1, and then you asked me a number, but I don't think we have a number. And so that's what I'm asking to push this to next week so we can get the number and have the affordable housing conversation, because it may not even be on the ballot. So that would be something to know moving this forward. And I know we're on a tight timeline, but 1 week I don't think is much to ask. And I appreciate the draft language that was copied and pasted here so that we can have the discussion. That is the first conversation we have had about bond language. So can we please put this on for next week to have more information? That's my request.
Just for those numbers.
And the affordable housing conversation is happening Tuesday, isn't it?
No, that's Monday, May 18th.
May 18th.
Also a week.
Okay.
If you go back to
we know
the
the
item on the agenda, we're discussing bond language, possible bond language. Aaron sent out the copy from the bond that was on the last time. The last 3 times this has been on the ballot, it has gotten over 50%. So,
I think the additional thing would be that the land potentially would also be publicly known at that point. And so that would also
Maybe not.
be helpful. Well, if it was after the conversation on the housing for the 18th. I mean, my understanding is that we're looking for a early June deadline for bond language, right? Is that what was talked about, early June, to have something for bond language?
I'd have to go back and look at that.
I know it's tight.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is
June
that.
was the preferred,
Yeah, I
But there
remember
is some
June.
time in
And,
there.
and so any time in May feels like a good time to have these conversations. It's May 6th. I am requesting that we have the affordable housing conversation, we have the land acquisition that publicly known, and that we get the numbers that Mandy is asking for in order to have a more robust understanding of what the bond language can be.
I think that frankly, and I'll just be honest about how I feel about this. I think that number is a red herring. I think it's small enough in the scope of the overall project of the jail that when you say up to, not to exceed, you're counting this.
Right.
So to know that number is $800,000 or 1.1 million is not going to change anybody's vote one bit.
But we don't know, and that is the point.
I understand.
So that's all I'm asking for.
Understand that.
And I think a couple of weeks to get that number is not asking a lot.
Well,
and also the additional information about affordable housing and the land, I think is important for the public to know.
my point is I don't think it changes anybody's vote. So again, it seems like a red herring, but
It might, though. It might.
it might change your vote if the difference is
I cannot.
1.1 to 800,000.
What will definitely change my vote is a conversation about affordable housing.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about this difference that Mandy's talking about in terms of the square footage where you put additional cooling units.
Just combine what we're saying as two elected officials, that moving forward, it would be helpful to have more information. And I don't understand why that is a problem, other than the time crunch, which I understand, which is why I'm trying to be respectful of the June deadline, because I know that that's a thing. So can we just have a more robust conversation with more information? That is the request. And I don't think it's much for 2 weeks.
Aaron?
I'm going to go off topic and say Travis needed a second test, so it was a test.
And I just want to make sure we didn't need to take cover.
Yeah, right.
I'm on the safety committee now, Aaron. So we just got blasted for this last week.
Brad?
Between now and next week, whatever that extra information you need, tell me what it is. Send me an email. What's the question you want answered? Clearly, the square footage for HVAC expansion is one of them.
Kitchen.
What's that?
And the kitchen. It's the capacity for whatever's
And yes,
extra.
whatever else it is, you need to tell me before the next meeting so we don't have another meeting where it's, I need this, and the laundry list gets longer. Tell me ahead of time so we can come in and I can have those things.
Well,
That's the point of the work session, too.
Well, let me just float something.
Okay.
Would the two of you be supportive if we said up to, not to exceed 94.5 million, with the understanding, not answering the cost question at this moment, because in the language saying that we would design a facility for a maximum capacity of 140 persons, but as built for 120.
That means that there would be no expansion. Of
That
the kitchen and
would mean that the mechanical and food service and laundry and all of that would be built so that it could not support more than 140. I'm trying to workshop what I'm hearing from the two of you. And I think the two of you might need to horse trade amongst yourselves, because both of you want a one-to-one. You're focused on affordable housing. Mandy is public safety. But just to put it out there, say we're going to do 94.5 million for the jail/SO for 140 without expansionability, plus 94.5 for whatever the two of you would settle on. Would you support that? Even though we can't publicly discuss why, even though you do not support the site.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lisa, Rod, just to regurgitate that would be $189 million, with half of that for a 120-bed jail and sheriff's office with the shelled out space to add 20 beds down the road. Additional $94.5 million for, and Mandy V, I need the two of you to please tell the three of us what that is.
Yeah, we can.
I don't support that. I never have supported them being put into one. And,
Yeah, I think this is very last minute switch from what we've talked about.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think that everybody up here has been consistent. I appreciate it.
But we have met with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee for a number of years now. And nobody ever talked about this in that committee, not to any extent at all.
No, but
Okay.
but
Just to be clear.
I mean, I have heard consistent values and specifics from all four of you throughout this process.
I mean, I am very much in favor of us moving forward with some significant affordable housing investments. I just don't think this is the time and place for it. I think that connecting these two things is a mistake. I think it will cause both efforts to fail, and I think that they ought to be dealt with separately. This is a charge that the board has under the Iowa Code, and I think we should do what we are required to do and what we're charged with doing for our public. And so I would like to move forward with this vote on this facility.
Brad?
I completely agree with Rod.
Yep. Thank you.
And also, just for the record, I think if you do want to move forward with a facility that is not expandable in any way, like the one we are on now, you are binding the hands of future elected officials, and history will repeat itself. Any other time you build infrastructure, you have to build it for future needs. It would be irresponsible to deviate from that when you're talking about a public safety building. You have to build it for future needs.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. I will listen, Mandy V, if the two of you want to pitch what that other 94.5 looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
well, wait.
the conversation today is about whether or not this bond language will move forward. And I just think that at this point, I don't understand why we cannot wait to have that other conversation and to have the detailed information that we're asking for in terms of funding. Why not, John? Tell me why.
Because we've already waited too long
How is that possible?
to get this turned around.
But this isn't even due until June.
Because it's going to take 6 weeks. That's what bond counsel takes.
Okay, and what is the actual deadline for getting bond language? Last Wednesday in August. Give us 2 more weeks.
We had planned and talked about in our committee meetings that we would have the language available. We held striping for June so that we could use the summer months for sessions around the county to give the public information, answer questions, whatever, but to have the actual language that they are going to see on the ballot.
I know, and I'm trying to get that in June. I mean, and to contain that, because I understand that whatever is going to need to be circulated will need to be circulated. Okay. And so I am trying to adhere to a timeline. We have been talking about, and I understand that the committee has been meeting, but this is the first time that the full board has addressed this. So I think taking some time to digest this will be more robust for the public at large, because this is going to be, how many times has it failed? 5?
No.
3.
3?
Not even 3. The one was a courthouse.
Yeah.
So
there's been 2. There's one in 2000.
Okay.
And one in 2013.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've
what I just said
had failures on this before. And so in order for it to be successful, I do think that we owe it to the public to get the information that we have requested. I really do. And it's just 2 weeks.
So can we back up before we ask these two to put their time and effort into coming up with exactly what they want. We've got two people that say, no, we don't want the two things put together on a ballot, and two that want it that way. We don't know what you want.
I'd like to hear their proposal.
Waiting to hear from us.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, is it worth the effort to have them do this, or you're just going to hold out until they've done it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah, that's up to us whether or not it's worth our effort to do something not knowing how the vote's going to land.
Absolutely. And which is why I think we need to give us 2 weeks then to come to you. Because you're asking us to do this on the fly, and I don't think that's, A, going to produce anything that is going to be, like, defensible, and B, please respect our experiences, the fact that we have surveys out, that we know that affordable housing, that public safety is an issue. There's things that we can look at now that we know that this is the draft language that you're asking us for. I'd be happy to put that together for you. You all have been meeting for weeks and months on this. Give Mandy and I time then. Now that we know that this is where you guys are headed, give us some time to
I'm trying to figure out where we're headed.
Well, I know. I want to come along.
Yeah,
and in order to do that, we have to have time to do our own due diligence, and for the board to have a full conversation about affordable housing, and for the public to understand where this location is.
Well, that's what the affordable housing needs to be a year.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
We absolutely know how we could spend $94.5 million in affordable housing here in Johnson County. Are you kidding me? It's studied enough. We have had our own studies. There's many plans.
I wouldn't have even paid for that study. That study was a joke.
Well, I'm just. What are you saying?
The rural housing study was a joke.
That's your opinion, and I
know opinions suddenly don't matter.
No,
because yours has been respected.
Supervisors.
All I'm saying is there's a lot of information and data, and we could even pull in Lynette Jacoby in here. We understand the importance of giving people safe, affordable, decent housing.
Of course.
And so
we need to spend the time figuring out something that will work in all of the different communities, which will be different. There needs to be a proposal that has things across the spectrum.
Sure.
It's going to take a while to do. Just like this has taken years to come up with something, it's going to take a while. And it deserves something that is more thoughtful than this.
I think that so I have a master's in planning, and so I just want you to understand that when you go around and you have something that is as big as this, let's say it's $94 million, you can put together, just like you're saying in here, we will have acquisition, equipment, we're going to solve safety and security. You think that language is going to be any more specific than the language that we could put together for affordable housing that then we could understand from there what we could do? Because when you have a bond measure and it passes, you don't have to spend that money yet the day after. It takes time to spend that money. So then from there, you go into the details. Can you have a big idea and a big bond measure for a jail that has a design and just be as defensible as understanding and knowing the housing crisis that we have in our community?
I totally understand the affordable housing crisis.
Exactly.
And I think we need to approach it thoughtfully with our partners.
Agreed.
And I think it's really interesting that you bring up your master's in planning, but you dismiss the PhDs in statistics.
I'm not dismissing
the work
them.
At CSSI.
No, in fact, I invite them in. I invite them in because I understand that for integrity of research. But am I a social scientist? No, I didn't know the questions to ask them. But we do have people who do know that. And so I am not afraid to say, can you please come in and talk to us about this? And I don't understand why there is fear of discussion.
There is no fear of discussion.
Then why
I don't
have the public conversation?
We already had a couple, if you recall.
Publicly?
Yes.
That we're here. We were sitting here and we had
CJC.
Right.
And
it's
they came in like 3 different times
public
and
meeting.
explained things.
Yes, and I understand that.
So
all
those
I'm
were
saying,
public meetings.
I'm not going to fight with you about that. All I'm trying to say is that if we could give Mandy and I enough time to come back to add to this draft that you have, then yes, we will have something presentable.
One thing for Rod, one thing for John. Rod, yes, they're public meetings, but a public meeting in the county building during the workday is not an accessible public meeting. And John,
like this one.
Yeah, this is not an accessible public meeting.
All of these people are taking time off.
And that's why I do the field mediation meetings at the library, and we're looking at where we're going to go into, Hills Community Center, all of that kind of thing.
Move them all the meetings to you.
When we're addressing big major topics, we definitely need to have some in the evenings for sure.
like we
John,
said.
if the ballot language has to be to the auditor by the last week of August, and bond counsel needs 6 weeks with it, it sounds to me like that is what was taken into consideration when we set June as our target. So it does seem to me that we should have time to talk about this again in 2 weeks.
My concern is if we wait 2 weeks and then we send something off and it gets returned and for whatever reason, it's not acceptable to one or more of us, there's not time to improve upon
Well,
it.
you only need 3.
Sure,
So,
but
I mean, that was always going to be the case. That's always the case.
you don't think that there is any proposal that can get,
No, I do. I do think that there is, and I would like to work towards that. You need to give us the time that is been afforded others.
I don't think there's one in front of us today that's going to get all 5.
Yeah.
well, I mean, Rod and Lisa have both already said that they're not going to support whatever you develop. So,
That's an interesting framing of that. I'm not going to support a merged
yep,
two different topics in one ballot
which is
measure.
what we're discussing right now.
That is it.
So, no, I didn't say, I'm gonna just, it's you, it's coming from you, I'm gonna, just the way you framed that was a little.
Well, we are the two sitting here that are proposing that, so it's not inaccurate. Anyway, all we are asking for is 2 more weeks, and it will still be within the deadline. Because we can have the conversation, the location can be known, and we'll have more detail on the cost.
The location may not be known. That's an important thing.
Well,
to
sure,
point
but
out.
it would give more time.
Right, but I just don't want people to think that in 2 weeks we will know, because we may not.
Sure, that's fair.
Okay, if we wait 2 weeks and the location is still not public,
We can still have this conversation.
I think it's all on you, John.
yeah,
Obviously.
well, I don't want it to be.
No, but
I want us to get to.
I know, and I appreciate that.
The reason we've been here 90 minutes is because I want us to have a proposal that at least gets 4 votes. But I just don't see any way forward that gets more than 3.
It's very possible if you would give us 2 weeks.
I don't believe that. I don't think that, and please, Rod and Lisa, correct me, I don't want to misunderstand you. Is there any universe in which what V is asking for 2 weeks for would win your support?
well, for one, it's actually less what V's been talking about and more what Mandy's been talking about. I do not want to build anything smaller than the 120 beds with the additional 20 that's shelled out.
And I did tell John
so-
here that, he asked, and I had to think about it. He asked if we did 120 with 20 shelled out with no potential build for expansion to 240 and had a match, if that would be something I could support, and I said yes.
Okay, but that's putting an additional 96 million into other public safety type stuff.
Or something along those lines, yeah.
Okay, yeah. See that is a no go for me. That 96.5 or 96.
94.5.
Yeah.
Is there a smaller percentage than 1-to-1 match that would be acceptable to you?
I want the issues to be separate.
I said that from the
And I
beginning.
definitely don't want to pay for fire stations in communities that need to pay for their own fire stations.
Well, didn't we help Solon with theirs? Why wouldn't we help other communities?
Well, we have typically given a little bit of money toward space if they want to, in the future, host an ambulance.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I'm not just saying we just give them money and build their fire department for them. I'm saying a fund through which we can find ways to support.
Well, we've already done that one, but it's hardly a, it was $50,000, I think.
Correct,
So,
which is why.
Not
A piece of
necessary.
it.
Yeah, so 94 would go pretty far.
Okay. I prefer V's wanting to make investment in housing as opposed to non-specific public safety things. I think there's a lot of merit to some of the ideas that you have, but I think from both a political and practical matter, knowing how stretched we are for capacity, I would prefer those additional investments be for housing, attainable housing. I do also think that those should be two separate matters. I don't know that we can provide the information to either of you that is going to allay your concerns, specifically you because of the location. And I've heard that. I know we can't discuss why, but I've heard that and I respect that. I happen to disagree with it, but I do think that these need to be two separate conversations. And that's why I've scheduled the housing meeting for Monday after next, because I'm in support of that. But I do think that, we've been working on this for years, and we need to continue moving forward, because if in 2 weeks the output of that housing meeting is indeed we want a second bond referendum, that is going to be even more work for bond counsel to do already on a compressed timeline. And so with that, Rod V, what I would propose is that we take broadly the language that you forwarded on Lisa.
Did you forward
Yes.
it, Aaron? Okay.
Just now?
No, it was 10:15.
I mean, just during this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and so that language is, shall the County of Johnson, State of Iowa issue its general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $94,500,000 for the purpose of erecting and equipping a Johnson County Sheriff's Office and jail facility to solve current safety, security, and space needs of the sheriff, jail, and court operations in a structure to be let's strike that and insert instead. Including
adequate space for.
Yeah, the list that Lisa was enumerating earlier. And then for a jail facility not to exceed, and then we would need bond counsel to help us out how to perfect the language to say not to exceed 140 persons with 120 at open.
Yeah, it's inartful, and I understand that. You're just taking a crack at it. But I have full faith in bond counsel to take our raw wording and bring back the appropriate. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's what we will transmit to bond counsel. And then next Monday after next, we will talk about affordable housing. Anything additional? Aaron, can we work with communications to get a roadmap or a calendar? Okay, thank you. Item C4 is to discuss GuideLink Center. Yeah.
We're almost done.
Do we need a break?
I would. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's 10:50. We'll stand at ease for 5 minutes.
If you gave any input to the survey, none of the rest. You didn't. You wanted to.
One of the questions. I believe I missed one.
No, you missed.
where they were asked, Rod, do you believe that you want a jail? Okay, baseline. Let me tell you about all of the things wrong with this jail. Then, Rod, do you want a jail? I've never mentioned price. I've never mentioned cost. I've never mentioned cost of the society.
Girls mandate. I thought she came.
Going out tonight, so I'm not saying this study supports.
I've heard an interview where you cited the study, and I can't remember the exact words as evidence for the jail. But that's not what this study supports. I would love to sit down.
It can't support that it's evidence.
It cannot support that Johnson County. That is not what it can support. And I want to sit down and show you why that is. I encourage people to sit down too and show you why that is. And I'm not saying it's not about me being mean to CSI.
I feel like I've already done with CSSI in terms of hiring them, in terms of them coming in, saying, are you ready for me? I got
All set, Marlene? Okay, it's 10:55. We'll come back to order. Would you mind popping in back and letting JJ know? I see that the Zoom hasn't resumed.
Oh, what am I doing?
Well, it looks.
We're all set back here.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have video. Thank you. Item C4, discuss GuideLink Center proof payment certification of community and family resources for March 2026 services.
Good morning. Just another month of GuideLink services. One interesting thing to note this month, the number of people presenting with opioid substances actually generated or exceeded the cost to Johnson County. So what this ultimately means is that opioid dollars exceeded Johnson County costs. So Johnson County actually, out of our general fund, has no cost this month. So opioid money, dollars, is covering everything. There's also a small credit that I'm going to carry over into next month. So we'll kind of carry this through. All the numbers are in the packet, but it's just really fun to watch. So it's kind of a little perk every month. Other than that, yeah, processing. And this is for March. So we're getting close back up to speed. Great news.
Anything additional?
Just continued thank you to Erin, because I don't really think this should be something she has to do, but she does, so we appreciate it.
All right, that brings us on to item C5, Strategic Plan Committee update.
On this item, really no update from last time. The committee is meeting next Monday again to go over the draft, and we're just trying to get it into a shape that we feel confident to forward to the board. So I don't have a date yet for that for you guys. I'm just kind of waiting to see where the committee's at. So, yeah.
Anything additional on strategic plan? All right, seeing none, item C6, discuss state and federal legislative issues, including updates on the Urban County Coalition, pending legislation affecting Johnson County and representation county and supervisor positions. Because of overtime, we didn't have a UCC call last week. I imagine we will have a closeout call once Larry and Gary have had an opportunity to catch their breath. Erin has been forwarding on all of their summaries to all five of us. And so, any supervisor have anything on this item?
So with the property bill, I know that the summary is coming out. Is that something that we can bring to the Budget Assistance Committee too, once we get some of that actual nuts and bolts?
Yeah, no, and of course, you know, with a huge omnibus bill like this, it's going to take time to sort out. Anything else on legislative issues? C7, discuss operational issues of the Board of Supervisors office.
I don't have a lot. I'll just want to note the schedule really quick for the next few weeks. Tomorrow we have our formal meeting at 9 a.m. Next week, we have a pretty standard fare. We have our work session on Wednesday, May 13th at 9 a.m. And then on Thursday, we have our night meeting, our formal night meeting at 5:30. Into that second week, we have a few things. So we do have on Monday, May 18th at 5:30 p.m., we have the housing meeting referenced earlier. We have a normal work session on Wednesday, May 20th at 9 a.m. And I actually should say I have Supervisor Remington remote on all week. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
Remote on the 18th. I will be out for the work session on the 20th.
Okay.
And remote for the joint meeting.
Okay. So, yeah, work
And
session
then present
on,
by Thursday.
okay, yep. And then on Wednesday, May 20th, we also have a joint meeting with the Board of Health at 4 PM. And then we have a regular formal meeting at 9 AM on Thursday. So I'll work with Chair Green to get I don't know if we're going to have bond language back or not, but I'll work with whatever you need to on that.
All right, thank you, Erin. A couple additional operational issues. Let me find this. Is there any objection from the supervisors? We approved a change order for the fleet shop in the amount of $20,866.49. After reconciling what is left in contingency, the final amount came down a few dollars. So the original amount that we approved was $28,866.49. The final amount is $26,17.87. So just a couple $100 less. I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to sign that change order, but it's actually a few bucks less than what we approved. So little good news there. Okay, any additional operational issues? We have reached the conclusion of our agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order this morning? The next meeting of the Johnson County Board of Supervisors is tomorrow, Thursday, May 7th at 9 a.m. in this space. Until such time, we shall stand adjourned.